Okay, so now we're ready to turn this into a patty melt pizza. This is a great pizza. It just, the recipe for the dough came to me, and I finally figured it out, and I had this really great dough, but I was just racking my brain trying to figure out what toppings to put on there. And I thought, pastrami, that'd be great with a little tomato sauce and cheese, and it is. One day I was sitting around talking to one of my buddies, and he said patty melt, and I just went, that's it, a patty melt pizza. A really nice, cheesy pizza. But instead of doing beef, I want to do something a little different. So what I decided to do is caramelize shallots, and then use ground bison. Absolutely awesome meat. It's got a sweetness to it that beef doesn't have. It's just a great meat to use every now and then. Okay, so now we have our dough, and we're going to do this move on forming this. Now this dough, because of the rye seeds, will tend to tear. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to just do the basic form, and then what I like to do is use a French pin, which is tapered on the end so I don't completely crush the outside edges of the dough, to roll this out until I've got it about where I want it. It's at that point that I then give it a couple of tosses to make sure it's just right. So first let's get this shape where we want it, get that crust nice and thick. This is also a pizza that I like to do with a little bit thicker crust. I found if you go with a really thin crust, it can almost have a cracker-like effect. So now we're going here. Okay, so now I'm going to go back down onto the bench, flip it over. So now I'm going to go to the rolling pin. So if you see now, I'm just going to work it in different directions to help keep that round shape going. Got that nice little bit of a crust build up there, and because I'm not going all the way to the edges, I'm never going to completely crush it. So we'll still leave enough rim there to create a good crust. So now we've got this going. Gotta love it. This is an amazing thing. It's one of the best foods ever thought of as far as I'm concerned. Okay, here we go. Okay, so now let's do about the right size. With our hands, just give it a quick little toss. Like I said, you have to be careful because if you overstretch this, the caraway seeds will cut right through the dough. So now we're going to go to our tray. Just go right back down here onto the tray, and it's time to make this thing up. Just make sure we get it all nice and flattened out here. Okay, so now we're on our pizza tray. Now it's time for the sauce. I don't like to use too much sauce, just a little bit. I think overly sauced pizzas can be a little bit too much. You don't want a whole lot of that sauce flavor. So now just do your standard spread. That's starting to turn into a good looking pizza. So now what I like to do, so it's not just a white pizza on or white cheese on a white dough when you see it, is I go for the cheeses first. And what I'm doing for cheeses is I'm doing a fresh mozzarella and a shredded Gruyere. So for the mozzarella, we're just going to go ahead and just sprinkle this all around, get a nice good amount of cheese on there. Patty melts are supposed to have a lot of cheese. Now we've got the mozzarella on there. It's time to put on the Gruyere. You don't want to use too much Gruyere because it's a very strong flavored cheese. So now, Gruyere goes on. We'll use a little bit less than that. Just get it nice and around there. Make sure everything's nice and covered. Okay, so now it's time for the buffalo. I'm using ground buffalo meat that has been aged. It's got an incredibly sweet flavor. I'm just gonna get plenty of that out here on this pizza, all the way out to the edges. Some big pieces and some little pieces. It's all gonna cook the same once it's in the oven. Break that up just a little bit more. Get over a little more over here. I think you're really going to like this pizza if you try it, and I think your customers will absolutely love it. Okay, so now we've got that on there. Now it's time for the caramelized shallots. Caramelizing shallots is a simple thing. If you don't already know how to do it, you just take some shallots, put them in a pan with a little bit of oil, and stir them very infrequently so that they brown up and all those sugars get nice and caramelized. So now what we're going to do here is just take these and spread them around, get them nice and on there everywhere. Just spread them around. And caramelized shallots are great on anything. If you don't particularly love a really strong flavor of onion, they're a little more mild. And their smaller size creates these nice little pieces that you don't have to bite into and try and tear apart a whole onion. It's really kind of nice. So there we go. That's the pizza. It's ready to go into the oven. So we're getting ready to transfer it to the oven now. So what I'm going to do is grab my pizza peel and just pick this thing up and take it on over here to the oven. And once it's in the oven, it's going to take about 12 minutes to be done, and we'll have a fresh pizza coming out in just a minute. You see where that buffalo meat is sunk down into the pizza. Got some nice bubbling. Oh my. Another thing you always want to do is you want to reach in there and just check underneath to make sure the bottom's done the way you want it. You may just have to stick it back into the oven for just a couple more minutes on one of the decks. But this is looking absolutely perfect to me. Nice color to the crust. The oil in the crust has just started to give it a nice little crispness to it. It's going to be a beautiful pizza. So here we are. We're ready to come off of this tray. So we'll just go like this, and now we're going to come up, and we've got a done pizza. So just let that cool for just a couple of seconds and set, and then we'll cut it up and serve it up. So now we're ready to go to a serving tray and cut this thing up. So bring it up off the bench, right onto the tray, grab your wheel. Serve it up. And if you miss the cut and it's not 100% perfect like I did over here, just tell them it's a rustic pizza. All right, so now we're ready to serve this to the customers.